Good evening, everybody. We are back with show number 14 of the Phins Forecast. The Dolphins are back in the win column, boys. We are back.
Oh,
They
yeah.
have, for all you mathematicians out there, they have now exactly half as many wins as they do losses. But all is not lost, and we're going to try and keep it somewhat optimistic tonight. We're going to talk about that Rams game. We're going to look ahead to the Raiders, and we have a special segment, a new segment that Steve actually came up with. So we're going to be doing that after the best segment in all of pro sports.
Let's go.
All pro sports media, game balls and jockstraps. So all of that and more after this. Good evening, everybody. We're back. Phins Forecast. The Dolphins have finally won a game after losing 3 straight. Feel like they were getting closer and closer to. I feel like they're getting closer and closer to a win. You know, they came close against the Cardinals, came even closer against the Bills, in my opinion, and then they finally pushed one out against the. Finally pulled one out against the Rams. So. How are we feeling tonight, guys? Josh, I'll start with you. How you feeling, man?
I mean, much better than I have in recent weeks. I'll tell you that much, fellas. It's one of those things where, when you get stuck in the mud and you lose a couple games in a row, the season just has a different vibe and a different feel. And I'm sure our fans our listeners could feel the difference in the show. But man, I'll tell you what, when we pulled that Monday night, with everything that went into it, right? Primetime game, we suck at. We did awesome. Tua coming back, we've lost a bunch. Let's see if Mike McDaniel can call the right kind of game plan. Let's see if Anthony Weaver can call a good. It was just it was awesome, man. I've never been more hyped in a season for a game in a couple seasons. It was great.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Anthony, what do you think, man?
Yeah, man, I'm pumped. I mean, it's been over a month since we won a game, so it's that's just the life of a Dolphins fan.
Yeah.
But we have an opportunity here to pull off some a stretch of wins.
Mm-hmm.
This one was the big one, though. This one was the most challenging of the next 3 weeks. The Rams had won 3 straight. We're going to talk all about it, but they were a red-hot team. They were a darling on the media. And we went across the country and got the win, and that's a huge. Even though I don't think we played like our best ball,
I agree.
We dominated that game. I know we won technically by 8 points, but
dominated.
We probably should have scored 30. It's just we have a lot of rust. We're still kicking off. I know Tua's been back for 3 weeks, but he's still getting into the swing of things.
Yeah, that played it out, and we'll talk about all that, but that played it out in this game a lot. We saw the good and the bad of Tua Tagovailoa in this game.
And the frustrating.
Steve. Yeah, and the frustrating. Steve, how we feeling tonight, man?
Good. Football's good. Life's good. Outside of football, my daughter's made it into my daughter made it into a tournament for this weekend. So we got a 2-day tournament. She scored a goal last week and was super stoked about it. And, everything's just been good. It's been happy outside of football, happy inside of football this week, watching, what I thought was going to be our toughest game of the rest of the season with Sean McVay, who I think is one of the best coaches and seems to be, a case for par getting out coached by coaches like him. So it was good to see him. Mike McDaniel come out on top.
Week. I mean, McVay, I think, is widely acknowledged as one of the top 5 best coaches in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
You come out with a win against him, and I know him and Mike McDaniel know each other very well from their days coaching, under various coaching trees together. But, yeah, McVay is a brilliant mind. And to come out with a win against him in Los Angeles. So my first question to you guys is this, because it's something I've been thinking about all week. Since Monday, I should say. I look at that Rams game and I say, is that the signature win that we use as a launching pad for the rest of the season? Like last year, the Dolphins got off to a hot start. They were in position to win division, and then they were positioned to, make the play. They had a chance for a number of signature wins last season. They came up small in all those games. So is this, and Anthony, I'm going to start with you on this one. Is this a signature win for them? Is this a win that's going to be a launching pad? They can kind of hang their hats on for the rest of the season.
I was thinking about that during the broadcast because, they mentioned that the Dolphins have this habit of getting into streaks. And I think last year we had won 8 or 9 straight or something like that. And, could we do it in the second half of the season, which is essentially what you want. You want to be hot in the second half of the year, more so than you want to be hot in the first half of the year. Unfortunately, you're supposed to actually win some games in the first half of the year, too. So I would say, memo. What's that?
I said I think they missed that memo.
Yeah, they didn't get that one. But I would say that this felt to me more like a mini boss than the main attraction.
Okay.
I
like it.
To me, the signature win is Green Bay on Thanksgiving. If you can beat Green Bay on Thanksgiving, let's say we win these next 2, which I'm not writing off, but they are teams that we should beat.
Yes.
As long as Tua is behind center. And then we go to Green Bay on Thanksgiving. It's pretty much a national holiday, football on Thanksgiving. The Lions play, the Cowboys play, the Packers play, right? And we get to play one of those teams for the second year in a row. Last year, we ruined the Cowboys. This year, can we ruin the Packers? And I would feel really good at that point, not only because that is the signature win I'm looking for, but also because then we're 6-6 at that point. And our season is completely different than it was.
Yeah. And like you said, Anthony, we can't look past these next 2 games. Getting off to a 2-6 start, you lose the luxury of looking past certain opponents. You just, so we do need to focus on the Raiders, focus on the Patriots, but they are winnable games. Absolutely.
Especially the Pats. They're playing well right now.
Yeah, they are.
That's a dangerous game, but we'll talk about that next week.
Yeah. Yeah. And, the Raiders, they're a dangerous team too. They have players that can potentially wreck our games. Guys like Max Crosby.
But nobody's hemming and hawing if we win these 2 games, right? Everybody's saying that they're supposed to.
Well, we're favored by 7 points.
Yeah.
Next, not that we care about what the betting odds are, but they're there for a reason. So
I will say one more thing before you want to go to the next one. The media seems to think this is a signature win. The media is Dolphins crazy right now. I've probably watched 3 or 4 different, stations that are even Mike Florio's giving us props. Like Mike Florio never gives us props, right?
Yeah.
True.
It's the media,
it's on the same level as like Chris Sims giving us props.
Right. Like the media sees this as a huge win. So perhaps I should see it as a bigger win than I do. But it's a very good launching point.
No, I like your analogy, Anthony. This is not like being the main boss. This is like, I like that analogy, and I agree with it wholeheartedly. Actually, Steve, what do you think about it, man? Steve, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Sorry, a win put us 1 game back out of playoffs, which obviously is where we want to be. Yeah, we're literally 1 game away from being in the playoff tree. A loss put us in line for the 3rd pick of the draft.
Yeah.
So I do believe
what a swing, man! Like, right?
Yeah,
That's crazy.
I believe that this game really set the tone for the locker room for the rest of the year. If they would have lost this, essentially, we're not tanking for anybody. But if we would have lost this, I don't think the heart would have been in the rest of the season. We're not really in line. There's too many miracles that need to happen. We still have room to lose 1, maybe 2 games and still squeeze in as a low seed team. Losing it to LA just kind of squashes all kind of hope. You kind of gave away any buffer that you think you have, and you truly don't get that win on primetime that we talk about so much. So I think this was probably the most significant win on the schedule, minus Green Bay and San Francisco.
Yeah. I mean, you can only win the games that are right in front of you. And this Rams game came at, from my perspective, it came at an inopportune time because the Dolphins were just starting to kind of hit their stride offensively. Their defense was reeling. And then you get a Rams team that has Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Matthew Stafford throwing him passes, Kyron Williams, who had a big fumble in this game.
Told you.
Yeah. So this. So Josh, I'm going to ask you the same question, man. Is this a launching pad? Can the Dolphins use this one?
Yeah. I mean, look, I think this is. I feel about this game a little bit more strongly than Anthony does. I think it is. If there is something between a mini boss and a final boss, this is where this lies, right?
I mean, boss.
Yeah, exactly, right. It's an Elden Ring, a Sentinel boss, if you will, for those gamers out there.
Yep.
I think this win, to Steve's point, was the turning point of the season. If you win, good things can happen. If you continue to win, if you lose, you're pretty much done. I mean,
right.
Barring just massive casualties on every other team ahead of you, we're not making the playoffs if we lose this game.
Yeah.
But if you look at the remaining schedule, so when we did our season preview, and if you haven't watched it for those viewers, go check it out. We were all completely wrong.
7-0, baby. That's what we had. That's what we had.
Yeah, I know. But if you went back, we all collectively, albeit we all had different predictions, but we all thought the beginning of the season was easy. The last 7 games were going to be insanely hard.
Yeah.
Well, now looking at the schedule and looking at how the teams have played this year, gentlemen, I heard a report. I don't know how accurate it was, but we have statistically the easiest remaining schedule in the NFL.
Yeah.
So if you look at these, right, win against the Rams, and if we win every game that we should win, I'm not saying that we will win, but if we win every game that we should win, we could easily get to 9-10 wins and make the wild card, honestly.
Yeah.
Which means we're losing one of the Packers 49ers games and we're winning the other, and then we're running the table on everything else. Raiders seem beatable. Patriots seem beatable. Packers seem beatable, in my opinion. The Jets are a dumpster fire. The Texans are a dumpster fire. The Browns are a dumpster fire. The 49ers are terrifying. So, I mean,
yeah,
very beatable or very winnable games remaining. I'm not saying we're going to win them, but very winnable games.
Yeah, that's absolutely. And again, like we were saying, we can't look past any teams. We can't look past this Raiders game and think, well, this is a win. In seasons past, they would play the Panthers. They played the Panthers last year, I think it was, and they went down 14-0 to that Panthers team. And I was sitting there thinking, I'm not concerned at all. The Dolphins are going to find a way to come back and win this game.
I remember where I was for that game.
Oh, yeah?
I was at East Hill Farm with my wife in New
Okay.
Hampshire, and they went down 14. I was like, this is fine. Like, easy peasy, no worries. I'm not stressed.
Yeah. I was actually driving home. I remember where I was for that game, actually. I was driving home from Maryland. My wife and I went down to Maryland for a little mini weekend.
It sounds like you and I are the problem. We were on vacation when the Dolphins played. That just can't happen.
We're not allowed to watch another game, is what I'm hearing.
But no, I came back. We got back, immediately flipped on the TV. Dolphins are down 14-0. And I thought, this is fine. They got this.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how this season's going. That's not how this team's going to be. You can't look past the Raiders. You can't look past the Patriots or the Browns or the Jets. You have to take every game as it comes because you start 2-6. You need to take every game. Treat every game like it's a Super Bowl. So let's get into this Rams game because the Dolphins treated this game like it was a Super Bowl. They treated the Bills game like it was a Super Bowl too. They played the Bills super tough. They played this Rams team every bit as tough. So I wasn't on the show last week, but my biggest concern regarding this matchup was the Florida State boys, Josh. The Florida State boys. Braden Fisk. Yep.
I don't
That's
know if you
your
want to show that off right now, to be honest.
No, you're right. Look, I don't even want to talk about that. Let's continue, fellas.
Braden Fisk, Jared Verse, a couple of Florida State guys. The Rams lost Aaron Donald and then just kind of,
Reloaded.
leaned fully into rebuilding that defensive line. And what a job they did, because those guys, along with Kobe Turner, like, that's one hell of a defensive line. And against the Dolphins' offensive line, had a bit of a rough day. So, Steve, what did you see in this game?
Well, I saw defense. Honestly, the third down conversions that, man, I just totally ran a blank. I am so sorry, guys.
It's okay. I'll come back to you.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I was doing something.
I saw it literally happen in real time. I was like, oh,
yeah.
I was trying to do these banners like we were saying. So I'm not going to do that.
I shouldn't have. No. Go ahead and do it. I'll come back to you. Josh.
Yeah.
What did you see in this game?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think this was an extension of last week's game, where last week's game against Buffalo, I thought we showed out amazing. I thought we should have won that game. I thought we were the better team for most of the game.
Yeah.
And I thought Tua had a phenomenal game. I thought our offense looked really, really good. I thought our running game looked really, really good. I thought the play calling was really, really good. And in this game, I feel the exact same way. I just think that our defense was the difference, right? I mean, I think two things for me really stood out when I rewatched this. I watched this game 3 times. What really stood out to me the first and second watch were that we won on early downs, right? That was both on offense and defense. I think that was the difference between us winning and losing this game. And then secondly, I thought the defense really showed out, right? I think they came hungry. I know we all kind of had said it in various ways in our text chain. They played angry. They played like they had something that they were ready to prove some stuff. And I think, Anthony Weaver called an amazing game. I think Mike McDaniel called an amazing game. I think Sealer completely transforms our defensive line. Yeah. And it was absolutely, and I'll get to him in the best segment in sports media history. But I think, him getting back was pivotal. I think Cater and Howard, not Howard, Holland coming back was huge for the defense. I thought Chop had arguably his best game as a Dolphin, and his best 2-game streak as a Dolphin. I mean, he's had a sack in both games. He was all over the ball. Sealer had his hands everywhere on balls. It was just, well, that sounded dirty. Just lots of hands on balls, fellas. I do think that, I don't want to overlook the impact of losing Austin Jackson for the year. I don't know if one of you fellas are going to talk about it, but I thought he was very solid and kind of just a steady, not amazing, not bad, but just a steady presence on that line. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. And I think losing him sucks. If I'm being completely honest with you.
It does. Losing Austin Jackson absolutely sucks. But honestly, I was concerned. But to see Kendall Lamb come in, in that spot, Kendall Lamb has been in this league 11 years.
Wow.
And he's not this super flashy offensive lineman. He's not, a high draft pick. He's never been a full-time starter, not really. But he is a guy in this locker room that Dolphins look to for leadership. Yeah. And I like having Kendall Lamb over there. They asked Mike McDaniel today about Kendall Lamb, and he said Kendall Lamb played well. Patrick Paul could supplant him. He doesn't know. I don't want to see Patrick Paul supplant Kendall Lamb unless Kendall Lamb plays just terribly. I thought Kendall Lamb held his own in this game. He's not Austin Jackson. He's not Austin Jackson.
No, but I'm with you though. Patrick Paul, stay on the left side, learn the left side, become a very good contributor to an eventual starter, and then start learning other positions. I'm with you 100%. Before I shut up and let other folks talk, some stats that I think are very important for this game. We had 4 sacks. We had 1 interception. We had 238 total yards. Would have been 300 if Tua didn't take those dumb 3 sacks. 15 first downs. We were 6 for 13 on third down, which I thought was good. My favorite stat of the game. Can you fellas guess?
Penalties. 1 penalty.
That's my man. My guy. 1 penalty.
Yep.
2 for 3 in the red zone. I don't like the fact that we had 3 yards per carry on average for the whole game. I thought that was a little low, but I do like the 4.5 yards per play on average from a team standpoint. And I will say this. This is the second week in a row where the Dolphins have scored the majority of their touches in the second half of the game. If we can continue that trend, we should win a decent amount of football games to finish out the year.
Nice. I like it. The 1 penalty, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. It's something we've been railing about all season long.
We've had games of what it was, 11 penalties, 12, 13 penalties, 15 penalties.
And the penalty was just one of the gunners on special teams not coming back in bounds. It was like an unconsequential penalty.
Yeah. Exactly. I don't know why they call 15 yards for that. They called him for an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. 15 yards for not running back in bounds.
Yeah. It's
meanwhile, DJ Moore left the field last weekend and went and sat on the bench, and that's not unsportsmanlike conduct. The NFL is weird with their rules, man.
Yeah. So, all right, Anthony, react to what everything Josh said. I mean, it was. What did you think about the game? What did you see?
Yeah, my bottom line was that I felt encouraged by the win, but there's a lot of work for this team to do still. I think if every drive we had was the first drive of a half, we would be the best team in the league because that's when we scored our touchdowns. The first drive in the first quarter, the first drive in the third quarter, we score. So something to be said for our scripted offensive plays when we come out there. Doing pretty good with those, guys. Doing pretty good. I will say I do disagree. I would like to see Patrick Paul out there at right tackle over Kendall Lamb. I want to see him get reps. Nothing against Kendall Lamb, but it's twofold. Everybody's getting hurt on the offensive line, and we need a guy like Lamb who can play all the positions to be able to rotate. We got to see Lester out there again in place of Robert Jones, which I never want to see.
No.
And so I would almost rather get Paul those reps at right tackle, but I'm not going to spend too much time on that because we can argue that till our faces turn blue. The biggest thing that I did not realize until after the game, until the second rewatch, is that Alec Ingold didn't play this game. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, the reason we couldn't run the ball made way too much sense.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he is arguably our MVP. If you compare our running game in this game versus our running game when he plays, it's not even comparable. It's night and day. 3 yards per carry in this one. We ran the ball 22 times. Nice balance, by the way. 28 runs, 22 runs, 28 passes. I like to see that. Mm-hmm. But man, was Ingold missed. I really wanted to make sure I mentioned that because, watching Julian Hill overrun Verse on the stretch play, before the ball's even snapped. What are you doing? I just... I think I was raging internally at that point, just watching a tight end who is supposed to know what he's doing run right past the guy that he's supposed to block for the stretch play, and then the stretch play gets blown up by, the guy you were supposed to block. And then he turns around and looks at Tua like, what? You're supposed to block him, dude.
He's so such crazy. I don't think I've been more wrong about a player in quite some years.
Yeah.
One other thing I did really want to mention, because I think Josh touched on a lot of my points, but no, that's okay. That's completely fine. Is accountability is what we're seeing. It's something we've been preaching on the show, and it's something that we saw. David Long got cut, by the way. We haven't mentioned that yet. That's incredible. But in this game, David Long only played on special teams, as did Marcus May, as did Duke Riley. So 3 guys who have contributed on defense in the past, albeit not well, all kind of relegated to special teams. Also, Raheem Mostert was essentially benched. He didn't get a single carry in this game. He did help us tremendously in the passing game later on, thankfully. Yeah. But I think there was a point there to be proven that if you can't hold on to the ball, because Jalen Wright got his carries, right? Mm-hmm. If you can't hold on to the ball, you're not going to get the ball. So I hope that Mostert is back in his starting position next weekend. I think the point was proven because we did miss him. But I am also a big proponent of, if you're not going to perform, then you're not going to be on the field.
Yeah. I agree completely. And I did notice that about Mostert as the game wore on. It's like, I don't think Mostert's gotten a carry yet. And then they asked McDaniel about it, and McDaniel kind of just,
sidestepped it.
Yeah, he kind of sidestepped. Like, oh, well, that was the game script. That's how we had. No, you don't plan to not give your top running back or one of your top two backs. Yeah, you don't plan to not give Raheem Mostert carries. Well, you do plan to give. You do plan it. Yeah. You don't say that's a game script thing.
Yeah, sometimes I wish coaches would just be like talk about accountability. Just be honest about it. Be like, no, he fumbled 2 games in a row. They were key fumbles. He needed to take a day.
Yeah, yeah. And he did have that big catch on a long third down that led to a first down. He was out there, but I support it. I completely support it. If you're going to put that fumble against the Bills was so huge and so backbreaking. That fumble against the Colts was so huge, so backbreaking.
Those games.
Yep. So you know what? Take a seat. Let the younger guys do it, and sit in timeout. Think about what you did.
Also, I'm putting together a new design, fellas. It's a milk carton with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill on it. If anybody sees them, please let me know. Would love to.
Also, if you find Jalen Waddle's hands, I'd like to see those too.
They've been separated from his body.
Yeah. Jesus.
Yeah. They've been. I mean, I've seen enough out of them to know that they can turn this around on a dime. There's going to be a game where they're both just going to go off for 150 yards. I've seen enough out of them to know that they're going to be okay. But man, what a disappearing act this season. It's been
fantasy teams are struggling, man.
You and me both. I have Waddle on my fantasy team.
I have Waddle and Mostert and Tua.
Yeah, I have Tua on my one. I have Waddle and Tua on my one team, and I can't put Waddle in my starting lineup anymore. Not until further notice. I can't do it.
I have no choice. So here we go. It's the Waddle show. Mike Evans, come back, please.
Oh yeah, Mike Evans. That's a tough one. All right, Steve. What did you see in this game, man?
All right, take 2. Yeah. No, so my third downs that I wanted to say was Tua was 9 of 12 for 137 yards on third down. And most of those third downs were incredible moments. Like they were plays that needed to be made in order to either keep the drive alive, but keep the lead going. Because a lot of those third downs had converted into either a field goal, a touchdown, so on and so forth. And the defense really caused a lot of the word I was thinking of for this game was disruption. And the defense kind of really just made that happen. They made Matt Stafford look super uncomfortable. And he threw the ball 47 times, something in that ball, 46 times. And, somebody at his age, I know he's an Iron Man, but he really, really got the miles put on him in Detroit. And I don't think that throwing the ball 40 plus times a game is really going to help his case at all in the future. And I really think we're starting to see the decline of Stafford. I think we had mentioned that in the beginning of the season when we were going over all these games, but he's definitely not the Matt that the Rams once had, and he's certainly not the Matt that the Lions once had. He's still that gamer at heart, but I don't think he's really so there's a problem with having a coach like Sean McVay. You're always going to have a good team. No matter how bad and how mediocre your players are, your team's always going to compete. So it's always going to look like they're doing well. But I really think it's time for Stetson Bennett to come in and maybe even show a little bit to see what he's got. I'm not saying now. I'm not saying, they're only 4-5. They're still in a playoff hunt. But later down the road, I think this is the season that we should see him get some real game time in. If there's a couple games at the end of the season where LA's just down and out, don't play Garoppolo. Put Bennett in. See what he's got. If you're going to try to save Matt Stafford for next year for any particular reason, and you're out of the playoffs or just you start completely not making it now. I think now is a good time to start looking into the younger players here in LA. They did a rebuild one time, and then the very next season they made it to an NFC championship game. McVay is that guy. He can make, like I said, a team with a couple fresh guys go really far. They lost Aaron Donald, huge, and we can see it on this team. It's he was the most relevant piece on that defense, and it completely shows because they're not the defense they once were. And when their offense can't score a touchdown, it's hard for any defense. Now, this is the first time that they've done this since 2002 or something like that, and only the 8th time in 8 years that McVay hasn't had a touchdown. But it's pretty hard to put a defense up against a wall like that and expect a W to come out. So, Sean McVay is that guy that can get those wins. So like I was saying, it is kind of, it's always good to have a coach like that, but sometimes it's your Achilles heel having a great coach, because, you're never going to give these guys like Stenson Bennett a chance if you're always just on that cusp of a playoff with a guy who's been sacked probably almost 800 times in his career.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
And I still think Stafford's a top 7-8 quarterback in this league. But I agree with you. I think it's maybe not this year, because I think they can still make a run here. But
come towards the end of the season, if they got nothing to play for, I say you play that kid. Don't play Jimmy. And I know that's what they're probably going to do. See what Jimmy's got left. You know what I mean? Or maybe they don't, but he's clearly second. He's clearly second. But I think they should give the kid a shot at some point this season.
My fantasy team would appreciate, or my dynasty league would appreciate that, because guess what I have in my dynasty league too.
Do you have Stetson?
I sure do.
I think he's going to be good in the future.
Stafford missed a lot of open guys in this game, man.
He did.
Sure did.
It was not his. He missed a surefire touchdown to Kyrie Williams. They harped on it in that game, but he did miss some open guys. He had some, but he also made some nice throws. Let's not completely trash the guy. Like, he made some. He threw some dimes, a couple of dimes to Cooper Kupp that were just
that catch by Kupp, man.
Yeah.
I mean, Puka had almost 100 yards at 96, and Cooper Kupp had 80.
Yeah.
By the way, I do want to shout out one person that we haven't talked about yet, and he had a forced fumble in this game, and he was a preseason darling. Quentin Bell, where have you been, buddy? Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. I knew that man was.
Yeah, he came in the rotation with him and Chop on opposite ends, which was interesting. We haven't seen that yet this year.
No, I love it, though.
I almost forgot he existed, Anthony. I'll be honest.
I totally did. I had to look up the number when we were watching the game.
Man crush in the preseason.
I had a total man crush on him in the preseason too. And then, Jalen Phillips goes down. They're dealing with injuries, and Chop, and somehow Quentin Bell just never came back on my radar until that fumble. And then it was like, oh yeah, I remember him. Yeah. Where's he been? So yeah, great shout out, because we needed that play when he made it, and we need edge rushers, guys. Like, Chop has shown flashes of he's shown flashes, but we still need more consistency out of that position. And I'm not saying Quentin Bell is going to be that guy that's going to fill Jalen Phillips' shoes, but I mean, between him and Chop, maybe we can get a couple of splash plays from those two guys a game. That'd be nice.
They're obviously not happy with Mo Camara.
I was about to say that.
Yeah. Sorry, Josh.
No. You're right. Nailed it right on the head, which is devastating, because I had high hopes for him.
So did I.
I'm not saying he can't. I mean, Steve, what do you think? I mean, I still think he was a later pick. Needs some time to develop. He could still turn into something, but
Mo Camara?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know enough about him, to be honest, and I don't like our linebacking core to begin with, so I think any help is good help, really. I mean, Six has been killing it. Anthony Walker, he's been balling out, and I know we just got the guy from Seattle.
Dotson.
Yeah, and from what I'm hearing, now I don't know a whole lot about Seattle. I don't really ever watch Seattle games, but what I'm hearing from you guys and what I'm seeing from the chats is coming off waivers, you're getting what you're getting, but the guy's still a baller. So
he was a starter every game until they, for some, I don't know. Everything I read on this, I went to the Seahawks forum on Reddit and in Bleacher Report, and they were all saying there must have been something behind the scenes.
Yeah,
that guy should have been cut.
Yeah. By the way, they have now cut both of their middle linebackers this season because they cut Jerome Baker a few weeks ago, and now they just cut Terrell Dotson. What is going on in Seattle?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Mike McDonald is trying to, he's trying to remake this team, and he's the youngest head coach in the NFL. He's trying to make his mark on this team.
Let's cut all of our starters.
Jettisoning your starting linebacking core. I don't know.
I do want to go back to Chop for a second. Chop had 2 sacks in his game. I don't know. What on earth? Is that me?
I don't know who that was.
What?
No, it's Steve.
Okay.
I didn't do anything.
There was a really loud noise coming from somebody. Who knows? We're past it now. Anyways, the sack that Javon Holland got, I was watching it again, right? And Chop has that sack, but he actually gets hit out of the way by Brooks.
So we really had 2 sacks theoretically. So that's 3 sacks in 2 games.
The 3 of them were trying all to race each other to the quarterback, and Brooks ends up hitting Chop away from Stafford, and then Javon Holland gets the sack. It was pretty comical to watch. It wouldn't have been if we didn't get the sack, but since we did, it was fun. Yeah.
It's a lot easier to get for us to wrap up a quarterback that can't move.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so before we move on to game balls and jock straps, the greatest segment in all of pro sports media, I do want to address David Long getting cut. What are our thoughts on that, Steve? What do you think about that?
He started off as a captain. How crazy is that? Yeah. Right? We're all talking about the save David Long here, right? He started off as a captain, so I kind of feel like that's pretty crazy that he's cut already. They obviously saw he's one of them guys that, there's really 3 kinds of players in my eyes. There's players that don't show up in practice but are complete gamers, Johnny Manziel, in college. Then there's people who show up in practice who are really good in practice but can't prove it in the game, maybe Skylar Thompson. And then there's people that just show it in practice, on the field, kind of like a Tua. I think they got, the option A here where the guy shows up in practice. He knows his film, he knows the playbook, but it just doesn't show on the field. He can't read the play when he's right in front of it. He can read it on the screen. He was good for us
last year, right?
He was our arguably one of our defensive last year.
But this year he just seemed like he had flashes of he had really good flashes of moments, but overall a lot of his games were bench worthy. I mean, a lot of his play resulted in 8+ yards, a reception or a carry. He was waiting for the ball carrier to come to him. He wasn't really running downfield too much at people, and he was getting burnt in the backside. We all know he's a run stopping linebacker, and we need these linebackers to be able to cover. And I think that right there is, a big reason why we can't have them. We can't have one-dimensional linebackers.
Yeah, and then you couple in the fact that he was dealing with over his career hamstring issues, but then he would, I forgot what game it was this year where he really hurt his hamstring bad, and he never looked the same after that.
Okay. I mean, you don't want to keep him around for depth purposes. You don't want to Anthony,
I'm surprised they cut him. I don't think we should have cut him, but I mean,
I think the Dotson signing kind of spelled the end for him. I mean, he just looked out of place in this defense. Forget it's a completely different defense than we ran last year. He couldn't. The thing he was supposed to be good at, as Steve alluded to, the run defense. He had no gap discipline whatsoever. Consistently getting runs up the middle, getting gashed up the middle, especially against Buffalo. He couldn't cover a running back out of the backfield to save his life. Anthony Walker's way more athletic, right? So I don't know what the cap savings is. Maybe it's significant. Maybe they just thought, let's do you a solid. You're a better fit for a different defense. We're going to cut you so you can go start somewhere else. It was very obvious after the first few games of the season that he just wasn't going to work out. He's just not athletic enough for the defense that Weaver's trying to run.
Fair enough. It was certainly a surprise to me. That's all I'm going to say.
It was a surprise for sure. I'm not saying I'm not
No,
surprised,
yeah.
but you asked for a reason, so I tried to come up with one.
Yeah.
Well,
No,
I'm with
I
you
did.
guys.
I did ask for reasons. And Anthony Walker has been way better. He looks great back there. He does. Him and Brooks are a heck of a duo. Those two can stay healthy.
Mhm.
I'm excited about our linebackers in the middle. All right, so let's move on, guys. Let's move on to the greatest segment in all of sports media, game balls and jock straps. I'm going to start off with my game ball, guys. I'm going to start off first here. My game ball goes to Anthony Weaver. Anthony Weaver, Anthony Walker too. Why not? All the Anthony W's.
We're
Anthony
the best. What can I say?
Anthony Pinzone. All the Anthonys. No, Anthony Weaver to me called a great game. And this is after he gets my game ball mostly because this is after two lackluster games against the Cardinals and Bills. Two top offenses he faced in the Cardinals and Bills, and the Dolphins defense. Make no mistake about it, they were the reason why the Dolphins lost. The Dolphins offense kind of came alive, and the defense let them down. In this game, you've got another really good offense in the Rams, good skill position players, and offensive line that's getting healthier. And he kept them out of the end zone. They moved the ball a little bit, but that's to be expected with guys like Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams. Yeah, this game was kind of a signature game for Anthony Weaver and a game that he can build on going forward with the Dolphins defense. Also, it can't be understated how, and I think somebody touched on this earlier, how important getting Zach Sealer back was, how important getting Javon Holland back was. We saw a little bit less of Jordan Poyer, mercifully. Cater Kohu, yeah. But still, Anthony Weaver, this is, take a bow. To me, this is one of your finer performances.
Yeah, I think it's one of his best. I think it is his best performance of the season so far.
All right, so Steve, give me your game ball tonight, man. You're on mute again.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I turned it off. So my game ball is Sanders, our kicker. So every field goal he made, he put the Dolphins up by at least 2 scores and clearly helped take the pressure off the defense and keep Matt Stafford one-dimensional. Like I said before, Matt Stafford really had his back against the wall all game. He kind of had to throw it. I mean, we were stopping the run fairly well. I believe Williams had 63, 65 yards, something like that. I actually don't have all the stats up this game. My notes are very minimal for this game, being that it was a Monday night game. But regardless, I do believe that, every field goal he made literally put us up 8 or more points. So it really helped our defense out, helped make this win look a lot better, helped all aspects of the game. When special teams does well, matching with either offense or defense really helps.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what, Steve? I knew somebody was going to take Jason Sanders. I would have taken him personally if somebody didn't take Jason Sanders because he deserves to get his flowers for this game. He was perfect out there. And right when we needed a perfect performance. It would have been
50-yarders. Is that what he hit? 250s, right?
Yeah. And it would have been so on point, for him to. It would have been an early season narrative, kind of situation if Jason Sanders would have gone out there and this is your chance to put the Dolphins up by 2 scores, and it's wide right. It sails wide right, and the Rams come back down and tie it, and we go to overtime and lose. Nope, not this game. Not this time. Jason Sanders was awesome. Jason Sanders was perfect. The much maligned special teams unit was actually not a liability in this game. Nice to see.
It's huge. He was the difference between being up by 11 or being up by 8.
Yep.
And obviously one of those is 2 scores, which is way better.
I'm gonna be honest with every one of you guys. Second half of the game, every time he kicked the field goal, I was like, this is going to be the one he's going to miss. Watch it.
Yep.
Here it comes.
I'm right there with you, Josh.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. I thought the same thing. And you know what? The way the season's gone, how can you really blame us for thinking that?
Yeah, exactly.
Josh, give me your game ball, man.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think I think, this person coming back from injury really made it very clear his impact on this team. Right. And my game ball goes to Zach Sealer. I think, 5 total tackles, 1 tackle for loss, completely morphed our run defense. Night and day from what it's been for the, however long he's been out. That's not a slight on Campbell or Hand or anyone else. They've filled in admirably. Campbell's probably the defensive MVP so far this season, but Sealer, man, just hands on balls. That's, just ever. But look at, if you rewatching this game, constantly his hands were up, he was around, he was swiping, he was pushing, he was punching the ball. Didn't really turn it into a lot of things, but it wears players down. It gets into their back of their mind. Stafford seeing ghosts when Sealer's, not saying that's the fact, but just constantly around the ball. I think Sealer worth complete steal of a contract, of a re-sign contract. Was it last year? I think, or the year, but when did we re-sign him?
It was last year. It was last year, mid-season.
Just talk about a team-friendly deal. I think he's the type of player now that could get close to,
Christian Wilkins money.
I don't think that, but close to it. We're talking maybe 80 to 90, and we got him for what, 30, I think 40, whatever the hell it was. So, just an absolute stud.
Yeah. He was great. And like you said, we missed him. We missed him dearly. He's got the visor now, so you can kind of tell that he's probably still bothered by the orbital road fracture.
Kind of dug it though. Kind of liked it.
Yeah,
I'm a fan of masks, of visors, man. From like LT days at the running back position, and there's just something about it.
But Sealer was great in this game, and it can't be understated how much the Dolphins defense missed him. He's such a disruptive force in the middle of that defensive line. Yeah. And him and Calais Campbell as running partners. That's a dynamic duo right there. I love it.
Yep.
I love it.
Now, if we, I would be real curious if we were able to poll the fan base before the season and said, okay, who's going to have the better year and who's going to stay healthy longer, Sealer or Christian Wilkins? I'm not that I'm happy that he's hurt. It sucks. He's one of my favorite players, no matter what team he's on.
Yeah,
that being Wilkins. But man, what a steal! For all of the crap that Chris Greer gets for some of the decisions and stuff, this was one grand slam game. Game 5. I don't watch baseball, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
Game 7 walk-off touchdown. No, I'm kidding.
You got your sports mixed up now. Come on, man. All right, Anthony. Game ball.
Yeah, I'm going with our fearless leader, Mr. Tua Tagovailoa. He had an extremely good game. This is probably the 3rd one in a row now where he's come out slinging it. I mentioned before he got a touchdown in each of the first drives to start the half, start the first half and start the second half. His numbers weren't overly impressive, 200 and some odd yards and an interception and a touchdown. But just like the difference in this team when Tua is on the field is night and day, right? Like he doesn't have to put up the numbers. He's just the presence of him. Everybody plays better. Now, I'll talk about some of the shortcomings in a bit, but things he did well. That you alluded to it before, Keith. The throw to Raheem Mostert was 3rd and 19.
Wild. And
Tua had just been hit. Okay, so the play before that, he nearly throws an interception. The play after, or 2 plays before that, the play before that, he gets sacked. So now it's 3rd and 19. He almost gets sacked again. He scrambles to the right side, which for those of you who are familiar, he's a lefty. So now he's throwing against the grain and somehow finds Raheem Mostert about 7 yards away, who catches the ball and takes it 23 yards for the first down. It's just... What a play, man. What a play.
And that little spin that he did was sick.
Right.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And that doesn't and that was just the cherry on top. He had a beautiful throw to Malik Washington earlier in the game, also on 3rd down.
Dime.
Absolute dime. His throw to Tyreek, although it didn't look like anything special, when you watch the replay, there's hands all in his face. And he gets to somehow is just blindly throwing the ball and finds Tyreek open in the end zone. I mean, it was not a statistical like explosion, but just the way he played when he was given the opportunity. It was a fantastic game. Yeah, fantastic game.
He's a baller, man. He's such a baller.
He is.
He goes out there and he just, some of the throws he makes. I sometimes think, who else in this league can make that throw? And make it as accurately as he makes it. That throw he made to when he escaped pressure on the first drive of the game. The throw he made to Jalen Waddle.
Bring that up to Waddle. Yeah, it was 13 on that play. Again, he escaped a sack. And found Waddle down the field. Yeah.
Even the one that Waddle dropped. The one that was what is perfect it? Like it was like a 24, 25 yard play or whatever. Hit him right on the perfect. You couldn't ask for a better.
That was such a good drive too.
He couldn't have walked up and handed it to him any better than he did.
Especially the way he's been handling the snaps. You're probably right.
Yeah.
I love seeing him find Jonnu too. I mean, Jonnu has become a huge part of this offense, and it's probably why we don't see Waddle and Tyreek as much. But I'm not complaining, that's for sure.
Well, and Jonnu kind of gave us a jolt in this game too, where
it sure did.
And he kind of showed that he needs to you just need to keep this guy involved. You need to keep this guy out there, keep him involved in this offense, because this is a wrinkle the Dolphins haven't had the last couple seasons, where the tight end is an actual threat. And then you see Jonnu catch that ball, shed some tacklers, take it down to the 1. Awesome to see. Yeah. Tua had an awesome game. That being said, Anthony, who was your jockstrap?
Yeah, before that, shout out to Jonnu. 33-yard catch on that play. That really changed the drive. It was the first drive of the second half for us. He catches the ball, bounces off a tackle, and rumbles down the sideline, almost scores on the play. Huge shout out to Jonnu on that. Then there's the downside to Tua, and so he also gets my jockstrap.
Yeah.
Fellas, this first half, outside of the first drive, was ugly. I mean, really ugly. Let's talk stats for a second. We had 6 drives outside of that first one. So we had 7 total drives in the first half, which is bananas, right? Only had 3 in the second half. So, yeah, that's crazy. The 6 drives after the one we scored, we ran 25 plays for 41 yards.
Oh.
Woof.
These drives include 2 turnovers, both by Tua. One was an interception, one was a fumble, 3 punts, and somehow we managed to get 3 points. I have no idea how. Thank you, defense. That is absolutely atrocious and just screams to the up and down nature of this offense, and the fact that we're a second half team, which we've seen all of last season. We already lived through it. So this is why Tua gets my jockstrap as well, because the consistency is just not there. How do you have 7 drives and only walk away with 10 points? Not only just 10 points, or not just 10 points, but 41 yards.
It's wild.
And
the crazy part is he completed what, like 70% of his completions or more over the last 2 games, and he's still like, I don't know.
So here's some of the drives. We had the one that we had the field goal. We had an interception. That was when Anthony Walker picked off Matt Stafford. We ran 5 plays for 22 yards. We get a field goal. It's not great. We were all saying it during the game. That could be like Keith's opening monologue could be about how we didn't take advantage and we lost this game, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Because that's an opportunity to go up 14-0 right there in the first half. That would have been beautiful. Following that, 2 plays for -4 yards, and then he throws the pick. Why are we throwing it backwards? Steve, you mentioned this before in your text messages. The screens are killing me, bro.
Oh,
right?
I can't stand them.
I can't. I just get rid of them, please.
Don't worry. The next drive, it continued. 4 plays for -3 yards. How do you even run 4 plays for -3 yards? I don't even know.
Hey, we'll figure it out.
We lost that one on a fumble. It was a really forgettable first half. And then the second half, we come out swinging and we forgot all about it, right? Really easy to forget all about it when you score on the opening drive.
Yeah.
The 2 drives after that, much longer, much better, but both again ended in field goals. So again, we can't get into the end zone when we have the opportunity to put a team away.
Yeah.
It's like our biggest shortcomings. We can't just put the team away. We have to give them hope. Like it's like we're a charity organization in the NFL. Like we can't just blow them out. We need to make sure they have some hope and they could come back. So the drive, you alluded to it before, Josh. Waddle drops the 20-some-odd yard pass. That drive was 11 plays, 51 yards. It was a beautiful drive.
Mhm.
And it ends in a field goal, not because of Tua, but because of Waddle. I mean, you drop that. I mean, okay. And then I can't believe we only had 3 drives, by the way. I know I'm harping on that, but that's crazy. 8 plays, 39 yards, another field goal on the final drive. So we turned it around in the second half. Again, I'd rather see touchdowns than field goals, but it was a much better offensive performance. But my goodness, guys, we don't make the playoffs with 6 drives for 41 yards.
Yeah. Agreed. And, some couple of those lost yardages, there was 1 sack that Tua took in that first half that was just
I forgot to mention that.
beyond brutal. And he was kind of given a path to escape and potentially find something down the field. And he just kind of stood stationary and let the Rams
ram him.
Ram him. There you go.
So once it hurt us, once it didn't. Towards the end of the second half, we had a negative 15-yard sack, by the way. He kept running backwards. You're not fast. Why are you running backwards?
No, what are you doing?
And not Lamar Jackson.
The next one we quickly forgot about because it was the next play was the pass to Mostert, who ended up saving his hide. But that one was also like a 13-yard loss. So, Tua, what are you doing?
Well, I'll say this. Let me just say one more thing on Tua, if I may. For the love of everything holy, if somebody wearing another uniform has a ball and you are on the field,
run away.
Run to the dugout. Just kidding. Just kidding, Keith. That one was for you. Run to the sidelines, right? Just get away. Stop lowering your head and thinking you're a linebacker because he, once again, took a shin to the face. Everything was fine. Nothing to worry about. He got up. He still played. He was fine. But come on, bro. Like,
did you see his comments after the game? It was actually quite comical, his comments, but I agree. Like, in real time, I'm like, what are you doing, you absolute mad lad?
Yeah.
But he essentially said that he went up to whoever the player was afterwards. It was like, man, you couldn't have just like avoided me. And the guy was like, there was nowhere to go.
I don't know, man. But Tua, for the love of Christ, can you please just stop trying to tackle people?
And we were talking about that in game when we were texting back and forth, guys. If Tua gets another concussion on a play like that, I don't know that I could have even stomached football in general for the rest of the season. I might have just been done. That was
the show would have been on hiatus until January.
Had like the little thing that spins.
We'd have been in mourning. We'd have been in mourning for the rest of the season. No, you know what? You're absolutely right. Tua doesn't have the luxury of chasing down ball carriers after he throws an interception. You throw an interception and you just kind of, running after the play, or you let yourself get blocked or something. You're done. Play's over for you.
Yeah, you're our $250+ million franchise quarterback. You should not be tackling anyone.
Nope.
Anyone.
Absolutely not. Just want to say hi to Mr. Snicklefritz. Thank you for showing up tonight, man. And true Phins fan.
Hey, we're a stranger.
Yeah, sorry, I've been lost, man, working like an animal. Hey, we're just happy you're here, bro. We're just happy you joined us.
We all understand.
Yes.
Surprisingly, this is not our job.
Not yet.
All in good time. All right, so Josh, give me your jockstrap.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you, fellas. I think it's going forward for the rest of the season. As long as this player is on the field and is starting or playing in any capacity, he will forever be my jockstrap. Jordan Poyer needs to go somewhere and disappear. Go retire. Go to somewhere. I don't care. Go back to Buffalo.
Bills.
Yeah, please. Actually, go start for the Bills. That would be amazing. Yeah. Of course, then he'd probably be an all-pro, right? That's just our law. But yeah, Jordan Poyer, man. Look, I mean, if you look at his stats are misleading, and I think it was you, Anthony. Maybe it was you, Steve. I apologize for whoever said this in our group chat during the game. But he has quite a lot of tackles in this game because he was always behind the player, catching, like running and just diving on the pile and getting a tackle. Like he was never making the play that he should. He was whiffing and then recovering. He was misreading or misaligning and then recovering and making the play instead of a tackle for loss or at the line of scrimmage. He was tackling the ball carrier or the wide receiver 5 yards, 6 yards, 8 yards downfield. It's getting to a point now where like, and that's coming from a massive Bills fan. No, please take them back. You know what? Take them back, please. Just horrible.
The play that really made me scream for Poyer was when Stafford misses the tight end, who's wide open, by the way, because of course Poyer's nowhere to be found. And then the ball's already incomplete, out of bounds, and Poyer's like, "I'm gonna go hit him anyways." I'm like, "Dude, what are you doing?"
Yeah. I mean,
you expect a veteran with his amount of experience to be a little more savvy with the things that he does on the field. He plays like a rookie. He plays like a rookie mentally and like
vet physically.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
You know what pisses me off about, and I apologize for using bad language here, but you know what pisses me off about him is that he spent all offseason talking about, well, when I was a Bills fan, the Dolphins were soft. Everyone's soft. This organization is soft, and we need to come here and we need to change the narrative. Well, you're playing like baby poop.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. He announced it. Yep. All right, Steve, who gets your jockstrap for the Rams game?
So I miss the times where we had like Ocho Cinco, T.O., Steve Smith, Joe Horn. They made this part of the game so fun. But Tyreek Hill's celebration with that WWE clothesline thing with Odell, that was a disaster waiting to happen. I'm really not trying to see I don't know how much he makes this season, $50-some million receiver get hurt because they can't do WWE stuff in the end zone correctly. Like, those guys get paid to do that. You get paid. If you want, dance. I don't care. Spike the ball really hard. Pick up the phone post. Call somebody like Joe Horn did back in 2002 or something like that. Like, make it fun. Get fined if you have to, but don't hurt yourself. Like, that's pathetic. And there's been plenty of people out there who have hurt themselves with celebrations. Yeah. I didn't find too many with touchdown celebrations, but I mean, Gus Frerotte definitely did it. And I thought it was a little later than it was, but it was 1997, 98. Yeah. And it wasn't the Giants.
He headbutted a wall.
Yeah. So
how dumb do you have to be?
But I mean, so same thing though. If he would have got hurt, we would be saying, how dumb do you got to be? You jump 3 feet in the air and landed flat on your back. Like, it doesn't feel good. If I did that right now, I'm calling out of work tomorrow.
I'm not even doing it right now when I want to call out of work tomorrow.
So don't do that. That right there immediately calls for a jockstrap.
I think about doing that. I want to call out of work.
Yeah.
And I absolutely agree, Steve. The Joe Horn celebration, the T.O. celebrations, they were all fun, and they were all kind of exactly. No wrestling celebration. Exactly. And even the Dolphins celebrations last year, they were corny. They were all choreographed, and
I loved them. I loved it.
Good though. Corny is safe.
The one where Tua was in the front, he was doing that little dance. That was. Dude,
I like it. I liked it until they pulled out one of those in the Titans game, a game where they just did not play well at all, and they were. You could tell they were itching to get one of those celebrations in. They got one of them in, and they still lost the game.
My favorite for me. My favorite's Barry Sanders. Score like you've been there before. He just handed the ball off and went to the sideline. You don't need to. How many?
And now you sound like my dad.
Yeah, but for real, there is a time and a place for everything, and. Like you said in the Titans game, like you didn't have that game wrapped up. No need to be celebrating like you already won the game in the third quarter.
Yeah,
absolutely. There's a lot of football to be played and a lot of time to lose a game. So there's times where you just hand the ball to the ref and do it like you've been there before.
And what kills me is Hill was already injured. Like, what do you like?
Yeah,
dude, you're playing with a torn ligament in your hand. Stop. Just stop with it. You know, one thing about Hill, I think he is, and I said it in our group chat during this game, an insanely fast human being. I mean, just the
His
speed
speed's just different.
It's fake. It seems fake to me.
Yeah.
But then he does stuff like this, or some of the stuff he ends up like getting into in the offseason, and you're just like, can you grow up, Peter Pan, and stop acting like a 12-year-old? Like, dude, you're a $90+ million wide receiver in the NFL. Your entire job is to stay healthy, train, and catch balls.
Yeah.
He's got 103 children to take care of now, too.
Well,
so.
I mean, exactly. So, you think you would be busy, right? I don't even have a kid and I'm busy, so I don't know. Like, that is one thing about Tyreek Hill that just infuriates me every single time I think about it. It's just like, just grow the hell up, please.
Yeah, agreed. And this is something we're going to be talking about. Unfortunately, this is something we're going to be talking about with Tyreek Hill until he eventually leaves the Dolphins organization. This is a guy that's just gonna he's not happy unless he's being controversial, unless he's doing something that he probably shouldn't be doing
for his brand, right?
Yeah.
Which I have a bunch of his clothes, like from Soul Runner, which is his brand, and they're awesome. But I mean, it's like, dude, you're on the field, play football.
Yeah. I'm going to get into my jockstrap real quick. My jockstrap goes to Liam Eichenberg, but the Dolphins' offensive line in general, not one of their strongest performances. Anthony, you pointed out earlier that Alec Ingold didn't play in this game, and that was a big reason why their running game just couldn't get going in this one. But their offensive line also got dominated by the Rams' revamped defensive line. I talked about Jared Verse earlier. I talked about the Florida State guys. I talked about Kobe Turner. I talked about Braden Fisk. They had a game against the Dolphins' offensive line. The Dolphins' offensive line, not one of their strongest performances. Liam Eichenberg, probably, in my opinion, his weakest performance of the season. And he's been low key a pretty solid piece for the Dolphins this season. Could he be missing Austin Jackson? That's something that we need to watch out for moving forward in this season. Missing Austin Jackson, missing his kind of running mate on the right side, is that going to preclude Liam Eichenberg from having the kind of season he had in the first half of the season? I don't know, and only time's going to tell. But he needs to turn it around in the coming weeks, because we can't have another performance like this and expect the Dolphins to continue to compete. And that's really all I have to say about that. I don't know if you guys have anything to add to that. But...
Nailed it.
Hey, Max Crosby's coming to town, guys. Let's get it together here.
Exactly. And he lines up on the Dolphins' right side of the offensive line. So Kendall Lamb, Liam Eichenberg, you guys are going to be tasked with blocking an absolute monster.
I really hope England's back, man. I really
Nut up or shut up time, fellas.
Yeah. All right, so
I'm excited for this next segment, fellas.
We're going to move on to this next segment, and you know what, Steve? I'm going to let you introduce it because this is your baby, man.
Yeah, so I don't know if this is a segment we're going to keep on doing or not, but it was just something that,
I'm not opposed to it.
Yeah, we've been seeing it all season long, and I follow 5 or 6 different Dolphins pages, and each one is pretty much the same. So I just opened up one of the 5, groups that I follow, and I got 15 within 5 minutes. I found 15 negative comments. So I gave each guy has 5 comments that I gave. I'm not going to give all 5 comments. I'm going to kind of give 1 and 2 here and there. We're going to move on depending on what kind of time we have and how long this takes. Maybe we'll do a second round. But for now, I'm going to start off with Keith. And I think I did these banners. Oh, no, I did not. Okie dokie. So to this day, the best quarterback the Dolphins has had since Dan Marino was Jay Fiedler.
Jesus.
And then
out of here.
The next one I see would be this one. Here's the deal with Tua. He has some elite skills, but definitely not good enough to not draft a QB. What do you think about these two, Keith? Is Jay Fiedler really the best thing we've had since Dan Marino? And
No,
are we ready to draft a QB this draft?
I'm not ready to draft a QB this draft. I'm not ready to move on from Tua, and this is even taking into account all of his injuries, Steve. Now, I've said this in the past. And there's two guys I've always compared Tua to. And true Phins fan, I understand what you're saying. Fiedler 33 and 15 is a starter. Let's not pretend that the vast majority of those 33 wins came off the back of that stellar Dolphins defense.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking Sam
Facts.
Madison, Patrick Surtain, Zach Thomas, Jason Taylor, Tim Bowens, Brock Marion. That defense was unbelievable and wasted on a terrible Miami Dolphins offense, helmed by Jay Fiedler. Now, let me just say this. There's been a couple quarterbacks that I've always compared Tua to, and it may not seem, fair or even true that I should compare him to them. But the two quarterbacks I've always compared Tua to are Peyton Manning and Drew Brees. Now, these are both guys that came out of college. Neither of them had elite athletic traits where they could, have escapability and run around a bunch. They had not ideal arm strength. They had just okay arms coming out of college. But what they did was they threw with a great amount of accuracy and anticipation. But in the NFL, as opposed to college, that's something that takes a while to hone. Peyton Manning didn't win his first playoff game until he was in his sixth year in the NFL. Drew Brees didn't really hit his stride until his last year in San Diego, and then he became a monster in New Orleans. These guys take a little bit of time to fully figure it out in the NFL. Tua is figuring it out, and you can tell he's getting better and better. Some of the throws he made in that Bills game, some of the throws he made in this past Rams game show you what kind of quarterback Tua can be, if he reaches his full potential. And I still don't think he's done that yet. So, yeah. And Jay Fiedler being the best quarterback in Dolphin since Dan Marino is ridiculous. It's Tua. It's absolutely Tua.
Absolutely. Awesome. All right, Josh. So these ones are for you. So I got two right here. The season is over. I hope we lose every game from now on so we can get a real quarterback in the draft. Now, this was just before the game. This was literally an hour or two before kickoff. On top of that, so this is the one I want you to really kind of think of and hit on. So can we agree that Flores indeed is a better head coach than Mike McDaniels? Numbers don't lie. Now, I'm not saying you need to have these numbers, and they're obviously two totally different coaching styles.
I don't need numbers.
But, yeah, is Flores indeed a better coach?
All right, I'm going to start with the first one. No. If you're a fan of a team and you hope that you actively lose, you are not a fan of a team. Yeah. I don't care. We were in that season where we won a single game with Cleo Lemon. Mm-hmm. Like every single game I went into, I was like, you know what? Maybe it's this time. I don't want us to lose. Are you kidding? It's miserable losing. Why the heck would I want to actively wish for that? Not to mention, there's one potential okay quarterback in this upcoming draft. And I don't think it's Cam Ward or Sanders. I think it's the quarterback from LSU. I'm blanking on his name right now, who I think is probably going to be the best quarterback in the draft.
Okay.
This is not the draft to do so. If there was like an Andrew Luck, maybe. Don't lose, but okay. If we get into the top 5, then we can move some pieces around and try to land our friend another quarterback if Tua doesn't pan out. But I'm a huge Tua fan, so I'm the wrong guy to be asking about this. Now, I don't think we have enough time to talk about the Flores thing. I think, Steve, you did this.
I gave this to you on purpose.
Stuff on purpose, and I both love you for it and I hate you for it because I don't have enough time to talk about this. Look, to true Phins fans' point of view, which we can pop up later, Flores does not belong in the same sentence, in my opinion. For me, Flores is a phenomenal, a top tier top 3 defensive coordinator, defensive mind, defensive scheme, defensive coordinator, in my opinion. He has no necessary qualities or needed things to be a head coach in this league. And that is something that I will die on until my dying breath. He burnt through his relationship. If you think about a head coach, and I'm going to use an old term that I'm sure not a lot of our listeners are going to remember, but there was a thing called a Rolodex, right? Where back in the day you would have this Rolodex thing, and you would keep that. It was kind of like a planner, like where you would have everyone's phone number. And head coaches have a proverbial Rolodex from a relationship standpoint. So they make these relationships as they progress through their coaching careers so that they can call upon them if they get promoted or if they need to hire someone. In 2 years, Flores essentially burnt through every single person that would deal with him. Could not make a hire on the offensive side of the ball. Could not make a hire on the defensive side of the ball outside of his mind. Could not make a hire on special. Just a horrible head coach. Was horrible with the players. Was a horrible personnel from a decision standpoint. I have never been a fan of Flores as a head coach. Now, you want a good defensive coordinator to a great defensive coordinator. Flores is your guy, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I believe so too.
And I could go on for hours about this.
I remember the first time I saw Flores smile, I thought like there was a trick being played on us or something.
All right, Anthony. So this one, the current players have no heart for this team. And then we need a QB, an owner, GM, and a coach. Yes. And obviously, I believe I gave this one to you for a reason.
Let's go.
Do you believe that we need a new GM?
Yes, Anthony. Coach, what do you think?
Owner and quarterback.
Let me address the other one first. I do think there is some truth to the current players have no heart for this great team. I do think there are some players who... We just saw one get let go in David Long. I do think there are some players who look like they're more in it for the glamour and glitz than they are for the actual game itself. And then maybe that just comes with being in Miami. I have no idea. I think we've talked about this pretty well. We've covered, Tua and Waddle and Tyreek laughing on the sideline during a 30-point loss and stuff. It's like, we don't want to see that as fans, regardless of the fact we know it's just a job for them, right? We're not numb to the fact that this is just a job, just like we have our jobs. But man, if I'm at my job and I just shut down an entire server because I pushed a bad piece of code, I am not laughing and smiling on the sideline, right? Like that's not happening. So I do think there's some truth to that one. Unfortunately, I wish it wasn't. But yeah. Let's get to the bread and butter one. We need a QB, an owner, a GM, and a coach. One at a time. Quarterback, no. We have Tua. He is a franchise quarterback for whatever that means. We're paying him like one, so regardless, if you didn't want him, there's no choice. Because if we cut him, we would literally have no salary cap. So you're stuck with him. I will say to the other one that talked about like drafting a guy, I'm a believer in drafting a quarterback every year. Quite frankly, I don't want to see Skylar Thompson behind Tua anymore. So if we're drafting a guy to be a backup, let's see it. So do we need a quarterback? No. Do we need a new owner? Absolutely not. This guy pours every dime possible into this team. You could not ask for a better owner.
I was hoping you were going to say
1,000 million %.
Absolutely, Anthony. Yes.
Yep.
It makes no sense. Like when I hear somebody say this, I know that they're either a troll or they just have no idea what they're talking about. Yep. Because go ask Bengals fans if they would rather have Stephen Ross as their freaking owner.
Right? Dallas. Like, go ask Dallas.
Go ask Dallas, right?
Yeah. Yeah, good one. Yeah.
Like Jerry won't even pay CeeDee Lamb. It took them till right before the season started to pay. They haven't paid Micah Parsons. Like our Stephen Ross would never do that. If we had a Micah Parsons, he would have been paid 2 years before he was supposed to. Like it just no. We have one of the best owners in football. Do we need a better coach? I'm on the fence with that one. McDaniel this year, I think the honeymoon period is over. I think that our buddy True Fin fan has been right about a lot of things that I, at the beginning of the season, probably would have vehemently denied.
Yeah.
But having like the quarterback situation with no Tua, the coaching didn't change enough to salvage any games. We barely won the one against New England, which we probably didn't deserve to because of a bad call by the refs, or it wasn't a bad call by them, but a stupid rule, let's say. And we would have lost that one too. So the coach thing, I'm on the fence. The GM thing, I'm not as down on Greer as a lot of people, but he has been around for like 15 years and we've won nothing. So I don't know anybody with that much job security after having won nothing. So I would like to see a change at GM.
Same.
So can I do one more lap real quick? I got one more each for one of you guys, and we can make it about a 30-second response real quick.
Steve, we need to move on to the Raiders game.
Fair enough.
We will, but you know what? We're going to revisit the segment next week and probably the weeks coming too, because
this segment was fire.
Fair enough.
This was a cool segment, but we do need to move on to the Raiders game because we're getting up to an hour and a half here on our time. Raiders in Hard Rock Stadium, 1:00 on Sunday. What are our thoughts on this game? I think a big thing for me is this Raiders team looks somewhat undermanned. They have Gardner Minshew starting at quarterback. Devontae Adams got traded to the Jets, so the wide receiver core isn't looking all that great. And they're starting potentially Audric Estime at running back. Alexander Madison doesn't inspire a lot of. This is a Raiders team that kind of has the look and feel of a team that's getting ready to pack it in for the season. Again, can't look past them. So, Steve, I'm going to start with you on this one. What are your thoughts on this Raiders game? How do you see this one going?
Well, I think I said it in the beginning, and I was kind of hoping this is how it was going to be, but I'm excited to watch Gardner Minshew play. I don't think he poses too much of a threat to us. I think that this game isn't necessarily an easy win because no win is necessarily an easy win, but I think it's a more than winnable game, especially if Gardner is going to be the one to play. He is kind of the guy that can, get a little Baker-ish and go off a little bit, but ultimately, I think if I'm concerned, I'm concerned about the pass rush getting to Tua. I'm not really concerned too much about this Raiders offense scoring too many points. I think that if our offense can score 20 points, we win this game pretty handily at that rate. I think maybe, the Raiders can get lucky and get a touchdown, but I think we're ultimately going to see field goal range out of this Raiders team. So I feel pretty good going into this week watching some football. And I think I'll be watching it while at my daughter's tournament, and I believe that it'll be a good weekend all in all. I think I'll get some wins all the way around.
Nice. Love it. Audric Estime is on the Broncos. I don't know what I was thinking as far as the Raiders. That's my mistake, guys.
It's going to be great, but thankfully we don't have to play him.
My bad, guys. Anthony, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, so I went through, and every week I feel like we do this segment and I forget to mention somebody, and then I'm watching the game and I'm like, why didn't I mention that guy? Like, obviously, right? So this week what I did is I went and wrote down everybody from the roster that I feel like is actually good, and unfortunately we're playing the Raiders, or fortunately, there's not a lot. So personally, I don't like to write anybody off. This team beat the Ravens earlier this year somehow.
True.
Mm-hmm.
They did have Devontae Adams at the time, but still, they gave the Chiefs a run for their money. They only lost by 7 in that game. They only lost to the Rams by, I think it was 3 or 4. So they have had good performances. But when I look at this roster, I see 4 guys that stand out to me. And now I don't know offensive line that well, and I don't know defense that well, so perhaps I'm missing guys. But Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker are good on the outside at wide receiver. Brock Bowers is a superstar tight end. And then Max Crosby is probably the best pass rusher in the NFL.
Yeah. So Bowers is their leading receiver, too.
Yeah. Bowers has been fantastic.
Yep.
And thankfully, though, we don't have David Long Jr. covering him now, so we should be okay.
No, but we do have Poyer, so
we do. So, I mean, with any luck, we'll have Jordan Brooks on him or a nickel.
Yeah.
Maybe Cam Smith will get some more playing time or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, it's hard to say it's not a threatening game, but I don't feel that threatened by them, and I'm hoping the Dolphins don't feel the same way, because that's exactly how you lose, right? As you go into a game thinking that. but it's not a game that I am overly concerned about, despite them have had some really good, performances this season.
Mm-hmm.
They've scored under 21 points in 5 of the last 6 games, so I think Steve is on point there by saying, we need to score 20.
Yep.
And I think
magic number.
We're averaging like 24 in the last 3 games since Tua got back, so we should be able to pull it off.
Yeah. Brock Bowers, you pointed him out. He's going to be an absolute beast, man. He's so good. And you don't normally see tight ends, rookie tight ends, do what Brock Bowers is doing in the NFL, which just shows me how special this guy is, because he can also block. He can also block along with receive. Yeah. So he's certainly somebody we're going to have to keep both eyes on. Jacoby Myers, we remember him from New England. Good receiver, not necessarily, probably miscast as number 1, I would say.
Well, yeah, he's a good number 2.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, he was really good when Devontae was there. But.
Absolutely. Yeah. But, this is a team that can score a little bit, put up points. This is a team that can give the Dolphins problems, especially Gardner Minshew. I've compared him to Ryan Fitzpatrick in the past. He's like the new age Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's that bridge quarterback. He's that guy who's going to go back there and just sling it around the yard.
He can go off.
He might throw 5 touchdowns. He might throw 5 interceptions. That's kind of how Gardner Minshew rolls.
Let's hope for the latter.
Yeah, let's hope for the latter. Josh, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, all right, fellas, buckle up. I got some stats for you guys. Are you ready?
Ready.
All right, well, first of all, I think it would be remiss of us to also not mention the fact that going into the bye, the Razors fired pretty much everyone. They promoted Turner into their coach, like their interim coach. They brought Norv Turner out of retirement to be a consultant. They have 13 turnovers in the last 5 games. I mean, just an absolute dumpster fire, in my opinion, right? I mean, I don't think this team is good at all outside of the players that Anthony and you guys mentioned. They're 25th in points per game. They're 30th in yards per game. They're 20th in passing yards per game. They're 32nd in rushing per game. And they're 25th in time of possession, right? Those are clearly bottom of the league stats. They have 156 first downs on the season to our 169. Bear with me. I got a lot of stats here, but this really helps kind of round out and paint a picture, right? They're 39 of 116 on third down. We are 47 for 117, right? They are 4 and 13 on fourth down, which tells us they go for it on fourth down about as much as we do. Now, if you remember in earlier shows, we have begged Mike McDaniel to just stop the nonsense. They continue the nonsense, please. I'm happy. I'm good. They have 2,522 total yards on offense to our 2,837, which if you think about that for a second, we have more total offensive yards with our starting quarterback being out for 5 games, right? They average 4.5 yards per play. They have 30 sacks to our 23, 17 total touchdowns to our 14. And this is the biggest stat right here. This is the one that I was burning through, but I wanted to pause on. They are negative 14 in the turnover ratio. We are negative 3. They are negative 14, which I believe is second to last in the league. That is awesome for the opposing defense. And if our defense shows up like it did last week, I honestly could see multiple turnovers, maybe one finally returned for a touchdown. I mean, it's that kind of game. Their leading passer is Minshew with 1,500 yards. Their leading rusher is Madison with 301. Their leading receiver is Brock Bowers at 580. Crosby has 6.5 sacks, though. I am terrified of Crosby. I am terrified of that crazy animal. I also am a huge fan of
his blind side.
Oh, Jesus. I'm so nervous. And he does not pull up. He runs through people. And I'm a big fan of Spillane. He leads their team in tackling. I think he's solid. It's going to be an interesting game. I think we have to completely not show up to lose this game, in my opinion.
But you made me go look up their coaching staff and all these hires that they've made. They literally hired our kryptonite, Mr. Joe Philbin. Now their offensive line coach, so we're screwed. That's it.
We're done. We're done.
It's a revenge game for him, guys.
Yeah,
it's over.
That's it.
All right, so I agree. I agree with what you just said, Josh. We literally have to not show up in order to lose this game. That being said, I'm not looking past this game.
Oh,
I
of course
understand
not.
the Dolphins
Yeah.
still lose this game. This is
Any
a
given
very winnable game. This is probably the most winnable game in a series of winnable games coming up for the Miami Dolphins. So we need to get this started off right if we want to get back into this playoff hunt here. I'm going to throw out my prediction here. I think the Dolphins are going to win this one fairly easily. I think they're going to win this one by a couple of touchdowns. Give me a 36-17 victory here. Steve, what do you think, man?
So I have a prediction that we go 2 weeks in a row without letting a touchdown in. And if we do, it will be Brock, but I don't see that happening. My prediction is 28. I don't see a score having to kick too many field goals. It'll be 28 to, I wanted to say 17, but I think I'm going to go down to 13.
Okay. 28 to 13, Steve?
Or 12. 12. Yep.
All right. All right. Anthony, what's your score prediction?
Like you, Keith, I think we're going to eclipse the 30-point mark for the first time this season. So I'm going to have us winning this one 31-17.
31-17. Mm-hmm. And Josh, what do you think?
Yeah, I got us winning 27-13. I think, I think we pour it on early and they make a run. I could see it being like 21-3 or something going into half. And then they get a touchdown and all of us say, oh, here goes. And then we close it out.
Yeah. I think it's going to be somewhat close in the first half. I think that this Raiders team under Antonio Pierce, I don't think they've given up on him yet, but I do think he's a dead man walking as a coach. I don't think he's going to last past.
Which sucks. I kind of like the hiring. If I'm being honest.
I liked it too, but I don't know that it was the right time for him, much in the same way it wasn't the right time for the Dolphins to hire Dan Campbell as their head coach.
Oh, God. Could you imagine this team with Campbell?
Yeah. I'd love it. But at the same time, and I actually wanted them to keep Dan Campbell for the long term. But looking back, he probably needed a little more seasoning before he could become the head coach that he is in Detroit right now. I feel the same way about Antonio Pierce in Las Vegas. So, look, guys, we're getting up to an hour and a half here. We're over an hour and a half, actually. We've been coming at this for a little while. We're probably going to come back with that segment that Steve brought on next week. We might make that a regular thing after Game Balls and Jock Straps because I really enjoyed that.
What do you think, Steve?
They're easy to find. It's not a
hard segment to create. Look at Snickle Fritz's comment. What do you think?
Yeah.
Look at that.
And I want to. So, guys in the chat, in the comments, please tell us what you thought about that segment because I know we enjoyed it. I want to know if you guys did as well. Against the Jets last year. Oh man. Yeah, it has been a while.
For the segment too.
Yeah, we do need a name. We need a name for the segment. We're gonna come up with a name for next week. I promise you that. So all right, true Phins fan. He's with it. He agrees.
He's on board.
All right, so guys,
we're doing it.
If you like what you saw, please like, subscribe, comment, and we're gonna come back with the greatest segment in all of sports media and the
second greatest.
Well, the segment that's kind of challenging the greatest segment in all of sports media. Maybe this is going to supplant it at some point.
It's the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson.
I love it.
Yeah, that's coming on Friday. Let's hope Mike Tyson still has something left.
I hope he knocks this kid into the next century. That's another show, fellas.
Yes, absolutely.
But we're getting up to, if you'd like.
We're getting up to we're over an hour and a half here, so it's time for us to sign off. Steve, you have any last thoughts?
I don't. I hope everybody has a good weekend. If you can watch the Jake Paul fights, we just announced it, but definitely watch the Dolphins game and come see us again on Wednesday.
Absolutely. Anthony, any final thoughts?
Yeah, won't be watching the fight, but thank you for the invite.
Yeah.
No, I think, let's stack those wins, boys.
Absolutely. Stack the wins. Love it. Josh, any final thoughts?
Be safe. Have a great weekend. Watch the game. Let's come back to another. I'm going to steal this from one of my favorite podcasters. We're going to come back to another club dub.
Love it. We will be back on next Wednesday at 7:00, everybody. For now, I'm Keith for the Phins Forecast. For Steve, Anthony, and Josh, you guys have a nice night. We'll see you next week.
Fins up.